father.
Doesn't matter.
Fair enough.
Hello, welcome.
How do we know when we're on?
Because Tony points at me, and then I start speaking.
We don't have a
Give
screen.
us the countdown.
We don't.
We're live. Oh yeah, it's because
Tony knows all like the industry symbol. Like,
oh, I guess I gotta
wrap it up.
bring up the phone then, huh?
I don't know what this is.
I don't think that's one of them, Brad.
That's not one of them.
Okay.
Your career in the radio industry is going to be short. What, does kill yourself?
I don't know. I just.
There's
I really
not
disliked
that
your
many.
point. Anyway, welcome back
Dumb.
to the show where we do things at certain times of the week.
Yeah.
As you can see, we have a
Can't
group
read
of
comments
guys
that way.
here.
It's just a video.
100% glasses, 100% beard. That's the show.
Glasses and beards.
I like how you shook your hair out.
Doesn't like conformity. Oh no, Jake does though. Apparently.
I literally
I
can't.
was told
see
I'm
a
I
follower.
was told at one time I was
I'm
a mismatcher. Like I immediately
mean?
want to go against what other people say I should be doing.
Why don't you shave your beard instead?
Not gonna do that.
That's fair.
I am the definition of a follower, I believe.
No, Brad is.
Why are you a definition of a follower?
Are you kidding me?
Nope.
Your shot style hasn't changed in the 5 years you've owned this business.
I'm going to take that as a compliment, Jake. So, yeah, we're not here to just take jabs at my style. We're actually going to talk a lot about the hot button issue. So we have a special guest here in studio, one of the biggest biggest offenders to the 40K community currently. That's Iron Hands. So we're going to talk about that. A lot of fun. Yeah. So
Yeah, but how do they hold a gun?
it's the 41st millennium, bro. Like, have you seen the Star Wars?
They have iron hands and
Luke Skywalker literally has a metal hand.
no, it's like a plastic hand.
Listen,
got
just
a
laugh
it's
at his
got-
bad jokes so we can move on. All right.
Have you ever seen Thor? Remember Thor Ragnarok? What happened to the dude with the hands cased in metal?
What about
I
Iron?
honestly don't
Couldn't
remember.
make a-
what
couldn't
about
make a hammer.
Iron Man?
He's not iron.
Well, that's the whole thing.
To be fair, he doesn't hold a gun.
He has
Sure
one
doesn't.
on his hand.
That's not holding it.
He is a guy.
He could hold a gun.
You know, that's one thing I've never understood, like, from, like, futuristic sci-fi stuff. Like, why is like, your Gundam, why would they build it with a gun? Like, why wouldn't the guns just be attached
Because
somewhere?
it's
Well,
called
they-
Gundam.
Shut
yeah,
up.
that makes sense. Like in universe, they call it a manipulator, so that they can arm them with different stuff.
So the guns, like, transform, kind of?
No, it's just like they serve different purposes, just like shock troops and like any.
Okay, so the suit
fortress
itself
stuff
has
and-
multiple
so
applications.
you know,
exactly.
like a power drill that you can take the drill out and then replace it with a different
He
size.
literally just said, "I understand," and Jake's like, "I'm gonna hit you further."
Could you give me one more analogy? Because I'm not sure I follow. I feel like I've drifted further away from comprehension now.
Even more. There's actually power drills you can get that have like different saw attachments.
Brad's
and
doubling
stuff
down.
like that.
Actively doubling
But
down.
that's why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it have, like, a detachable magazine?
Yeah.
That, I don't know if it makes sense.
Well, it's a battery pack.
That's fair. I mean, but, like, it's just literally like a giant gun. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah. I'm not defending it.
No,
It
and
also
it's not
looks.
just Gundam. Like,
It also looks cool, brother.
sure. The worst thing is Tyranids. Like, why do the big space bugs from another galaxy have guns?
Well, how else
Because
would
how
they
else are
shoot?
they gonna shoot?
They could, like, spit venom or...
Okay, listen. All right, what do you think's gonna go farther, your spit or a bullet?
If you're an intergalactic demon bug, I don't know.
If they could spit venom, wouldn't they?
We're also
Listen,
we're
that's
also-
fair. I didn't write it. I'm questioning it.
We're also talking about where canon psychic means magic. It doesn't have to make sense.
I mean, psychic, like, ability, like, okay, now...
It has nothing to do with magic.
Well,
It's,
just
it's,
psychic
it's a little bit
ability.
more.
Well,
It's a
what
little
is
bit more
magic?
science fiction than it is like because magic's kind of fantasy, right? They're trying to take the
Oh, yeah,
science
so they
fiction
change
route.
the name and say that it's.
Well, they
Okay,
they
but
go
now
farther
all-
to actually explain it
all
because
psychic
it's science
in-
fiction, not
So
fantasy.
explain how it's like. Then I want to hear this. Like,
Well, because
I
they
don't
use the
know.
warp. Everything's
I've never,
derived
I've
from the
never,
warp,
yeah,
right?
exactly. I've never read. I've
so
never
how is
read
it being? So
all into it. I would have
So
to look
in
it
universe,
up.
it's been explained that all things that have been considered magic throughout time have come from the warp.
okay.
So, like, being attuned to the warp, they call psychic. You know what I mean? Whatever.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Why is that? Well, a psychic ability is something to do with the mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
so,
they're mentally attuned to the warp, so it's kind of like blending the two. You know what I mean? Like
I just don't
telekinesis
see how-
doesn't exist, to my understanding, in universe, but the warp does. So you can like manipulate things. You know what I mean?
Isn't it
I'm just not seeing how
manipulating the
psychic
warp
equates
what you
to-
want it
Well,
to do?
if magic exists and you could perform that with your mind,
What'd you
that's
say,
not,
Joel?
you're manipulating energy. It's not the same thing.
In universe, you're manipulating the warp to what you want it to do.
So, like, pyrokinesis is considered a psychic ability, right? So, and that's manipulating fire with your mind.
Sure.
That's not creating fire.
what if you're manipulating magic with your
That's
mind?
what I'm saying. That's not.
Okay, but we
you're
kind of have to
manipulating
define
energies,
magic
right?
too. You
So-
know what I mean? Like what is magic?
I mean,
It's
that's,
a
that's
game
true.
that I love.
You do love it.
People gather around it.
They do gather.
I've been. People come at me like whenever they talk about Magic the Gathering. Usually it's about negative things, and it's
Weird.
And like it's
you don't hear anything negative about
it's a
40K.
game that I like love like literally unconditionally. Like no matter what iteration, what gets banned, what gets unbanned, however the game is played, I'm going to love it. And I'm just getting exhausted of people that just won't shut
Now
up and
people
play.
are complaining about the game.
Yeah, just minuscule things that don't really matter.
Like what? Like I mean, just you have a example.
Like when a new set comes out in standard, and they're like, "Oh, I don't like this iteration of standard," which is fine. And if
I
you
hear
don't-
that literally every time a standard set comes out.
from
I'm just-
someone, from at least one
right.
person.
And I'm like, and it's usually from people that like, you'll be like, "Hey, how's your day?" "Oh man, breeding pool." Like, not literally like,
It's
but
like,
like can't
that's
talk
one of
about
the 5
many-
cards he knows.
But they can't talk about anything else.
It's currently in
You know what I
standard,
mean?
too.
Listen, I know more than breeding pool. All right, I could name at least 10 cards.
No,
I
but
feel like the people that get
Fireball's
upset
one.
about that is the one that just had their deck rotated out.
yeah, or
That's- yeah,
or
that's
their
probably more
deck is
true
not
than
as
not.
powerful because the new set made it less powerful or made more decks more powerful. But regardless, like I hear this like every time a new set comes out, and I love it every time a new set comes out. It's just
I
exhausting.
think it's good for the game for new things to come out. Now, it's a little different from 40K or Sigmar or whatever, where you have an army where rules don't come out. You know, they come out every 2 years.
Yeah.
Whereas Magic, you could, when something new comes out, you can literally just add it if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you might not be able to just say, "Hey, here's whatever."
I feel like Magic players are more flexible in their gameplay than 40K players are.
Well,
though,
sure,
because you have
cardboard's a
to
lot
be-
easier to
it's a
switch
lot,
out than
yeah.
an army
No,
you've
because you
painted
have
in.
to be relevant and up to speed on all 5 colors. Like if your colors of or your deck rotates out of standard, you have to be
Are you talking,
knowledgeable
only
are you
enough
that-
talking on
to
from a competitive standpoint?
yeah, you have to be knowledgeable enough to build a new deck around what new meta might come out.
Not only that, you have to know other people's decks just as good to be competitive. Like,
Right.
it's a big chess game.
And that's every 3 months, right?
Yeah, I agree with you though that like Magic players are more flexible because if something new comes out every 3 months, their strategies will change. They want to keep playing. Whereas someone who built an entire Necron army, rules come out and their army sucks, they're less likely just to buy a new army.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot harder too. Like you can't. It's not just as easy as buying singles or whatever and making a deck out of it.
Right, like you can
You've got
change
to build
your-
it. You've got to paint it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
mean, all
you
that
can
stuff,
change
so.
your
What is this painting?
aggro deck.
Ask Tim.
What?
I've not seen a lot of painted models.
Look at my Mortarion. Prized possession.
All right.
Any whoozin'.
No, I don't know. There's a profile of the tabletop gamer, don't you think?
I
Like,
would say
and-
most people like to complain.
Well, I think
Yeah, I think
that that's
Probably
across
by nature.
every genre. I mean, that's every community, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
like board gamers will complain. 40K players we know will complain.
Oh yeah.
New movie comes out. First thing, what's wrong with it?
You look right to this guy because I'll usually find it.
I don't know. From the outside looking in, because I'm not really invested in either, I feel like 40K complains more than Magic.
Yeah.
That
We've
might,
heard.
just
I believe
because
that.
that might be because you're around.
No,
Us more.
No, I would agree with Tony on that
I
one.
mean, I think the changes have more significance.
I think
and they're
I
longer
might
lasting.
actually. Yeah, I was about to say I might actually agree with Tony based on those circumstances.
because with
I've
Magic,
been personally I've been kind of dissatisfied with 40K for quite a little while And
So, I
no
mean,
one, you know,
People
no one
bitch
knows
about
me is unaware
Magic,
of
but they're
that.
still in here playing it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing with Magic, though.
that's
Like,
fair.
there's one rule set that you learn, and that's what you play. With 40K, how many books are out there? That's how many
Right.
different
Yeah.
rule sets
Well,
to learn,
well, yeah,
or at
no-
least be familiar with.
Not only that, but like you got to consider like all these. Games Workshop is horrible at coming up with any sort of competitive standard for missions and stuff like that, for objectives to play. So now you have all these different tournament organizations who come up with their own house rules and their own mission objectives. We have our own here.
I wouldn't be
Yeah.
And
surprised,
it's-
though, to see.
And that's frustrating in itself
Mm-hmm.
too.
I wouldn't be surprised, though, to see GW roll in some form of ITC
They need to.
of
They
some
absolutely need to.
some form of ITC rule set
They absolutely need
to
to
flesh out a standard.
I think-
their competitive match play
But I
missions
think
in the rule book.
The point I was trying to make is that Magic sucks for 3 months, and then another 3 months it's getting changed again.
Yeah, exactly. 40K is it's usually a year period.
Okay, and then I guess let me come in from the other side of this. Magic players, like I said, like they don't typically do anything else. Like it's all Magic all the time. But then when a new set comes out, it's like, well, I'm not playing that. Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean you don't play anything else? You know what I mean? And I'm not coming at anybody in particular, but
Yeah,
like,
me neither.
you know how many people don't do pre-releases like for literally no reason? Like, I don't like it.
Well, and
But then
it's
buy
also
the singles and you know what I mean? It's really weird.
it's also like they don't know either because like
You don't know until you play it.
yeah, like it could look like this.
I don't
new,
like this set for limited. I've
thi-
heard that 100,000 times.
If you've done it and if you've tried it and you don't like it, that's fine. But like this new set, a lot of people were like, I'm not really into fairy tales, princesses and stuff. I didn't want to do
But they
it.
played Ixalan,
Yeah, which is
dinosaurs and pirates and
Man,
vampires.
I've been like patiently waiting to
Do
say I think dinosaurs and pirates is really stupid. Right? I wouldn't play it because that's really stupid.
together.
But I played
I
that.
think pirates was kind of stupid.
But
in
at the
any
same
setting.
time, but
Pirates and
the game,
dinosaurs. Talk
but
about
the
a weird
game could be
combo.
fun because of how the cards are designed together. So like thematically, it may be dumb. Like if you don't like fairy tales, but the game could be like everyone I've talked to that came in to pre-release and said I was hesitant because I don't want to like fairy tales. But then after the weekend, they're like, "Wow, that was a lot. That was way more
I had a
fun.
good-
That was the best limited experience I've had in like 2 years."
Is it just the art on the
That's
card
awesome.
they don't like? Is that it?
What's the theme of the card?
Which
right?
is
Like,
weird because like the theme to most Magic players doesn't matter.
you could literally,
Yeah,
you could literally
yeah,
for
it's-
Magic players print a black and white card with just the text on it. And
They literally a big portion of the trade is Japanese cards. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
you cannot read them.
Yeah, Russian and Japanese cards are like a high market and
Really?
ju-
I
ju-
wouldn't. I didn't imagine
ju-
Russian.
just for bling too, just because like
Well, yeah, it's
For no
it
reason.
is. It is a collector's game, right?
yeah,
So I mean,
going to a
there is
tournament,
an aspect of
going
that.
to a tournament with a Midwestern white male with an all Japanese deck is like a normal thing.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think that should be legal in big time tournaments because like you can't read what it says.
Yeah,
I think that has some logic.
you can
That has
always
some weight.
yeah.
I know that everybody knows what it says, but it's like, what if you're the guy that doesn't know what that card does?
So,
and
I
then you
mean,
got to take your opponent's
I guess
word for it.
it goes
you
down
can always
to
call a judge.
what
Yeah,
But
now
then
you
you're
gotta
that
call
guy.
it- Well, not only, but you have to call a judge for every single
but
card he's going to
it
play.
comes down to
It's
what
irritating.
what is the final truth? Is it the judge or is it the card? So who has the final ruling? Is it what the card says? So if this card says destroy one monster,
Yeah.
right? And you use it to destroy two monsters, and the judge comes over and says that it's a Japanese card and you can't read it, and he says it's okay to destroy two monsters there.
Well, that judge should be fired. It would be the judge's say.
That's a problem.
Yeah. Like
Well,
if the
that's where I
judge,
kinda
if the
I
judge,
agree
if
with
the
him
judge
on
gives
that,
an incorrect ruling, it's unfortunate, and that judge should be probably fired or at least.
Well, mistakes do happen.
Would you
but-
say like an
Yeah,
NFL referee?
But
Recent one
What
should
a
be
hot
fired.
topic.
but the reason I say that is that I think Tim has a perfectly reasonable point that
No,
if it
yeah.
doesn't say it on the card, you shouldn't be able to use it.
Especially when like the moniker for the game is read the card, right? Like
RTFC.
Yeah, read the card. Like, well, how does this interact? Well, read the card. Well, it's in
I don't speak
Japanese.
Japanese. Yeah.
Do you even read, bro?
read Japanese, read the card.
I would say I agree, but
That's so funny.
most of the time it's not an issue.
No, that's fair, and I'm not saying that it should be. I'm not like advocating to change.
I would say if it was an issue, there might be there might have been already action to say that you have to play English cards on American big tournaments.
If I at LVO come across a white guy that pulls out a Japanese codex, and I'm like, well, let me see that. Let me see that rule. And he's like, it's right here. And it's a bunch of weird lines.
You are being so bad right now.
That needs
No,
to
the
be
point is I
soundbite, Tony.
Point is, I don't speak Japanese. So, like, I literally at that
Yeah.
point have to take his word for it.
Well, yeah, I
Like,
mean,
that's different, though. That to me, that would be
I don't see that
more
as different.
but that would be more deceptive than because it's all about the standard of the game,
Oh,
right? Like in Magic, like it's generally accepted as okay.
Well, also-
in 40K, if you show up with a different language codex, but you speak English,
Well,
What if I print my codex out?
I think there's some danger in that too.
I think there is a lot of danger in that.
Because you
because-
can manipulate it.
Exactly, yeah.
You can't take a screenshot of a bank account for a mortgage company.
So I mean, what, I'm being
I think
serious.
it
What
does.
if we're in a
No,
tournament?
I'm
I think it
agreeing with you.
depends.
Like
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
very, very easily.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
You got to register your rule book.
Well,
no,
no,
you don't have to do
no.
that. No, what you do
So-
is you make a list, like an army list, and you got to submit that usually, and then they have time to look it over and.
does that
Sometimes
have
I
to
don't
do
know
with the
why,
rule book?
because a lot of illegal
Because
lists
it'll-
make it through.
Well, that's a problem, yeah, but it is to determine whether or not your army list is legal or illegal. Your army composition.
Yeah, but I'm not worried about the army composition. I'm talking about the rule book you're using.
No,
I know,
you don't
I
have. You don't
understand.
have to.
I understand.
You're told you're supposed to have them on hand, but like nobody checks you.
That seems like a problem.
Well, because
Well, you know what I mean. Like when there's 700
there's so many
people,
problems
you know what I mean.
with
Like at LVO, for instance, there's 700 people with four books each. You know what I mean? It's just like it's not realistic logistically to rubber stamp everybody. You know what I mean?
yeah, I know you're.
That's probably why they
you're-
bitch more.
You're talking about 4 or 5. Yeah, that does suck.
I would
needing 4
You
or
know how
5
many rule books you need for Magic?
Yeah. I would say that it's a lot easier
I would
to go
argue
to.
everybody should have a Magic rule book.
I would say there's no reason they don't have a Magic.
I don't think
Then
I've
there's
ever
not.
seen a Magic rule book.
They're free online.
Oh, well.
I would
Most
say
Magic
like
players
Legion
don't
then,
know
right?
them though. Yeah,
yeah,
but it's
that's
way
true.
more boring. It's literally like a document. It's like a word doc.
Yeah, rule
PDF,
rule
like
1.0.3. I would
The
say
Magic rule book's
like a-
pretty big.
it's
like a legal league.
huge.
It's pretty
because
funny.
every time the new set comes out with new abilities, they have to write rules with
Right.
it and how it interacts with every other rule. But I would say that most Magic players, in a competitive sense, know the cards. Like I know almost.
Yeah,
all-
Knowing
I mean,
the
that's
card is
reasonable,
more
too.
important than knowing the game.
It's like that. It's like that in 40K. As
Well,
well,
I mean, to be
right?
good, you
See-
need to know the game. But
sure. But even top-notch 40K players forget rules. We were at Michigan GT
Well,
this
I would
weekend,
say
which
there's-
was awesome.
So-
And at the literally was at the top table, Dakota, a stratagem was used incorrectly, and nobody caught it.
Well, that's why you still need judges, though, too. Right?
Well, but it's right. But like you can't have somebody there every minute doing
yeah.
because
yeah.
these rules are so big and so encompassing.
well, that's just a problem within its game itself.
Actually used. He wanted to use it.
Oh, okay, but it got
Overturned.
okay, but it was going to be used incorrectly. Okay, and it's
Judges.
it's not malicious. Like you have so many rules.
Well, that's what I was saying. That like it's a lot easier. I guess in my experience playing both games, it's a lot easier. Maybe I focus on Magic more, but it's a lot easier to know what cards there are I'm going to be playing against than to know every single rule every
I
army
think the
has.
meta's a little more defined in Magic too,
Yeah.
which is ironic because there's a lot more stuff out there in Magic. You know,
Yeah.
over 35,000 cards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
and the metas are pretty concise to a dozen decks.
which is a problem. But like, how do you fix that? You know, like
So is the ban list of cards? That's because every rotation cards get banned and unbanned, right?
There is a time period at every new set where they would just contemplate banning or unbanning something. Most of the time, it's no changes.
Oh, okay, all right. But I was just curious. I was wondering if that list of cards has, because of all the cards they've released over the course of history, I was wondering if that list has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
well,
they-
a lot of times things rotate too with standard. So
Yeah,
like things
okay.
that could be a problem in standard just naturally go away, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so they
After a given time.
evaluate things like just so most recently in modern. That's like probably the biggest controversy with bans and unbans is
You say they don't ban a lot in standard, do they? Because
they hardly
only
ban
so much
standard.
It's
for it to
really
work
stupid
with.
if they have to, though. Like,
They-
think
they-
about it. You put it out and you're like, you can't use this.
they
Please buy it though.
So they did it recently in Kaladesh. A few from Kaladesh to Ixalan, they did a few cards. I don't know what the R&D team was. They were making some dumb calls, but that was the first time in like 9 years that they had to do it in standard or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
But
like
they did it multiple times in a short.
they did like 6 cards
At one
in a
time?
year.
Okay. Wow. So a short, relatively short amount of time.
Yeah.
At the launch of 8th edition, didn't they do like an emergency FAQ right at the beginning about flyers? Like,
No, it was
like
after-
Pre,
well,
like
yeah, I mean,
it was like pre FAQ time, right? When they do it in the
Oh yeah,
in the
it was
top
before
to
they
bottom,
had a standardized
because- yeah.
FAQ release schedule.
because of all the flyers and stuff.
I want to
So-
say it was after the first big tournament of 8. So was that before the
I
Space
think it
Marine
was.
Codex?
Was it Adepticon?
No, it was like the Boise Cup or whatever.
Oh,
Dude, Adepticon is the best name. It sounds like a Transformer.
I really Adepticon, prepare to roll out.
Adepticon Pro.
I really wanted to go to
Dude,
that.
cons are Decepticons are bad guys.
So
Decepticons are
this is
bad
something I wish maybe I wish 40K did more
Lots of
often.
good guys.
You used the
maybe
algorithm?
No. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But like you talk about the ban list and stuff. Well, most recently in Modern, they banned something that was very broken, and they unbanned a card that hasn't seen. It was actually weird. This card was preemptively banned in Modern when Modern was conceptualized, and they
So
start.
it never existed in Modern.
Yeah, they created this is one of the cards that was banned in Standard. That and Jace are 2 cards that were banned in Standard. That when Modern was conceptualized, they're like, ban it, just ban it to begin with, and so now both cards are unbanned. And surprise, it's not that big a deal. So
Right, but that's how many years later.
it is.
So,
it
power
might have
creep
been.
is a thing. Like, new mechanics are thought
Yeah,
of. And,
it might have been a lot worse then, but this is something like I wish 40K might do it more often. Like a lot of things, like let's say your guard nerfs that happened 2 years ago.
Which one? Go ahead. Make your point.
Now, are they that bad? Like, are they as bad?
Not at all.
So
Wait
like
till we talk about
maybe
Iron Hands.
maybe they can roll back some of the nerfs
Yeah, but
that
how do
they've
they
done.
hold a gun?
You're literally
So
off.
like the nerfs that they give armies, like maybe they can roll back these nerfs.
I totally agree.
yeah, like Poxwalkers. Maybe they could roll back the dang Poxwalker
Maybe.
nerf.
Poxwalkers
The
haven't been an issue for over a year.
The
so.
issue
Leader
is
of guardsmen.
the fact that they would have to because they keep coming out with more broken stuff. They should never have to roll back nerfs. But the reason that they would have to is because the stuff they keep releasing is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean it's true. Like
So it's-
I disagree. I disagree. I don't-
you
idiotic to
want
have to-
new things to be playable, and sometimes that means they're too strong.
Playable but not broken.
They could be
Fair
they could
enough.
be in line though.
Yeah, exactly.
I
there's
agree.
nothing-
You could release.
I agree. You want
and they've done. To be fair, they have done a very good job. 8th edition is over 2 years old, and they've done a pretty good job of when new things come out. Nothing has really been like. Everything's always the flavor of the month. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people were freaked out about Chaos Knights for a little while, and then the
not sure
dreaded
why.
Iron Hands. Well, because it's new, right? You're like, well, how are
Well,
you ever
peop-
going to deal with
people
that?
are scared, yeah,
And
but
then-
they're good, but they weren't.
Iron Hands, I think, and Space Marines in general, are the first thing in 8th.
Continue.
They're the first thing that, since 8th has come out, that you look at it like, and you're like, what were they thinking?
I don't know if I agree with that. There's a lot of stuff that I've looked at in 8th over the course of
I'm
8th
not
as a
saying
whole.
numbers
And
tell
I'm
the
I would
whole
say-
story.
I would
but
say
just
the same-
look at the meta from this past.
I would say when
And I'm not-
Eldar
I'm
came
not-
out, I had a similar feeling.
well, I was about to say
When Eldar came out,
I was about to
I
say-
had a similar feeling.
I thought
Latok.
Eldar was a problem. Yeah, Latok, sure.
And you look at, and I'm not coming at anybody, but you look at Guard and you look at, I'm sorry, but you look at Guard and you look at the Zinch Demon stuff. You had 3-point Brimstone horrors that are 4 pinball. That's insane. That's idiotic. Like, why you can bring them in squads of 30? They're 3
So what
points
do
a
you- what are
model,
you
so
saying,
they're
they-
90 points. Like, it's
You're saying they should have been more, or
They shouldn't have had a 5-up pinball. They don't anymore. They have a 6-up pinball. Now they're unplayable. But
right? That's
it's-
then you run
so
the risk of
it's-
that
exactly.
going the other
And-
direction.
And it's the same. It's the same thing that happened with conscripts to a certain
right,
extent,
like
right?
the
They made 'em-
overreaction.
Yeah, you have an overreaction.
But now
they're
GW comes
unplayable.
out with Iron Hands. And
I
they're
get
like,
it.
They're like, no, but they literally said everything's fine.
I get it.
Have you seen some of the memes? Like the guy like. Well, better check
I
on the
don't think I've
meta, and he
seen it.
opens up the oven, and it's on fire, and it's like, well, give it a few months.
Yeah. So how long is it until now? So we've had over the course of 2 years, we've had drops and drops and drops of points in Space Marines. How long is it till where we start seeing the point cost for Space Marine crap going back up because of what they're doing?
This chapter approved. I would be shocked if Space Marine
I
points
might agree with you on that.
didn't
The
go
problem
back up.
is the thing that breaks them, breaks. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not the person that's going to say that these are overpowered.
These guys with like nubs that are.
You're off.
Have you seen Iron Man?
Kill his mic.
Turn his mic off. I'm sick of his horrible dad joke.
No, but like I don't want to jump to say Iron Hands are overpowered, but Iron Hands are amazing.
I think you can almost
me?
make that claim.
They're
I
overpowered?
think you can. I think you
Yep.
can too.
I
think you can too. But it's
But points aren't going to fix them.
Several of the new supplements
no.
are.
Points will fix Pharaohs.
we've had an issue this whole edition to where in order to fix something they've done points, which hasn't always worked, but then they keep adding rules. If something's bad, they just keep adding rules, and it's stop adding rules.
Is it Tuesday?
Fix the current rules.
You're talking arbitrary.
Well, not necessarily. I'm talking. So before 8th came out, they said what things were going to be more viable and we were going to have less bulk.
Well, listen.
I
as
don't
soon
know
as
if
they
things have
said you
necessarily
needed a
gotten more
chapter
viable, but in
approved-
terms of bulk, it's tripled. It's insane.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can theoretically play an army with more than 3 codexes.
Yeah,
Right?
And that's insane. That's insane. You have 3 codexes. You have maybe not necessarily your chapter approved because all you need out of there are points.
I guarantee.
Once you have the points, you're done. Especially when battle.
But that wasn't true
So-
in the first one, right? Because it had had troops on the ground, and technically those
What?
were, everybody knew it.
It did
but
have
technically, like that was a book you should have.
That's true. It did have some army updates before their codex
Yeah.
came out, so that's very true. But you have, but then you also don't have a codex. So
Right. Well, no, I'm talking.
But you do have an index,
Remember
so,
because
yeah,
they made it so
never mind.
flyers couldn't. You want to hold my hand, bro? I want to hold your hand.
It's kind
All
of
right.
really awkward.
It's not awkward.
You
It's
know
love.
You know what's really funny though? Iron Hands can't do that.
Oh my god.
they can. It'll just be cold.
Iron
and
Hands is
clammy.
just this.
No, like you know. Thor,
Why am I killing everything?
in Infinity War?
That
you
was
know
a
how they had the
horrible-
dwarf who had his
What a
hands
terrible
encased in
impersonation
metal.
of a
That's what I'm
space
picturing.
marine.
Also, that song is super off limits.
Super awful. Are they going to ban us for me humming it?
They might.
Ban you.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Demonetize
This
you.
is Facebook.
Yeah, they'll ban you.
That's fair.
This isn't China.
No, okay. Back to I don't know where the hell we were going, but
You were trying to
Are-
get this video up for a copyright strike.
Are we?
I want to hold.
If
you.
we're gonna
Stop
keep,
can't do that.
if we're gonna if you're gonna keep talking about Iron Hands, pull Dakota in here. He probably has a lot to say about him.
Are you trying to switch with him?
I'm just saying
But
I have
we're-
nothing to say about
All right,
Iron
go,
Hands because I
come
haven't
here.
played with him.
We were talking about bulk though.
Make
I mean,
an
that's-
exchange here.
give great jokes.
But yeah, anyway, that's been their problem. Is instead of reworking bad
Jake's
rules,
literally been trying to get off the podcast for 2 hours.
yeah, that's fine.
I haven't.
He's like, "Can somebody take my place, please?"
I just want to talk about Iron Hands.
It's
I
funny you
called
guys
my
say that,
grandma.
'cause
And
I
he's like,
was-
"Hey, does she want to be on the show?"
I was actually just looking up Iron Hands lists
Yeah.
as you called me over here.
And none of them have guns.
They all have Iron Hands though, which fire bullets.
But yeah, so getting back to my point, none of them. They've never. I guess I can't say never, but most of the time, instead of trying to fix broken rules, they just add rules in, which is just adding to the bulk. Look at Space
I
Marines.
don't-
Well, what's the
know if that's
FAQ?
necessarily true, though.
When they FAQ stuff, right?
Well, so
I mean, that's entirely
yeah.
what
So
it is.
so FAQ and errata, sure, but what a lot of the FAQs are just asking. They're just asking the questions like, how does this rule work?
And then they define how it works. Sometimes it changes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The intent of the
Sometimes
rule.
it changes drastically.
Sometimes they totally
But-
flip it upside down on its head. And
Yeah,
you're like,
that's-
how did you?
and then later on,
how,
the
how
FAQ
did you?
went
How could
back.
you have meant that?
I can't remember a specific example. That's happened several times in 8th. You're like, well, this can't do that. Well, it can do it now because the FAQ. Oh, they took it away.
Well,
again,
they
can't do
did that with cherubs and firing flak missiles
Yep.
and
That's true,
Hellfire
yeah.
Sure
shells.
did.
It couldn't. You
Where
could, and now you
yep,
couldn't.
Where you could, they FAQ'd it. You could, then you couldn't.
Yep.
That's one of the big things because that's what I used a lot.
Yeah. Well-
was that cherub to refire?
Yeah, you throw the
something
baby off the
along.
building, Joel.
Well,
something
I mean,
really,
it could
something
fly.
really,
It had
something really
wings.
silly happened with the Thousand Suns Dark Matter Crystal. So it was originally before any FAQ was on it, you could use it, which allowed you to act like you were deep striking a unit and place it that way, right? There was nothing that said you would deep strike a unit, but that's kind of how it interact. So you could do that in warp time. And the whole thing came out about, all right, you can't use stuff like warp time after you deep strike.
I
but it
thought you
wasn't
could
deep strike.
never warp time after deep strike. I thought like
No,
that
you
was a
totally
day
could.
one.
You
The
totally
dark-
could.
The dark matter crystal wasn't deep strike.
Right,
But then they FAQ'd it and said no, that's deep striking. And then they FAQ'd it again. I'm not sure how many people are actually aware of this, but they errataed the FAQ and basically struck that sentence that said it was deep striking.
I mean,
So currently, you can do it.
that is.
That's why I checked. You can't do it. I don't know. I read up on it.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Where'd you did you read the actual?
It
Did,
might have been the previous ruling though. I don't know.
After
did you
dark
read the
matter,
actual-
you cannot warp time. Yeah, you can't warp time after dark matter.
And,
I
you
think
shouldn't
you
be able
still-
to.
But I think you can now, though, because
Maybe you can.
I'm pretty sure they struck that ruling. So I looked it up, the original FAQ, and it said something. It said something along the lines of like I saw the FAQ, I saw the question and everything, and it said something along the lines of this unit is treated, and this was the pink text. This unit is treated as coming out of deep strike. And then I went and looked for the FAQ. I found the question. But they struck that sentence about treating it from coming from deep strike. It's not there anymore.
I think that's because. Sorry, I'm here.
So Jake doesn't say anything, leaves the podcast, then wants to talk.
No, I actually looked this up because we had played it the other day.
Okay.
I think they struck it because it's deep strike, because so you can dark matter turn 1. But I think they specifically ruled like an FAQ saying, can you warp time after dark matter crystal? And they said no.
Really?
I think so.
I'd have to find because that would be a new FAQ. But the original one I saw that, which made it so you couldn't.
Right.
It was completely taken away. So I guess if that's there, do you know where it's at? Could you show me?
Nope.
Okay. Well,
we'll find it.
there's another problem too.
All
There's,
right,
there's probably over 100 pages of actual FAQs. You
So-
gotta-
Well,
Oh, absolutely.
you know it's crazy
Absolutely.
because
So dumb.
there's like 3 times actually I think it's more than that.
So how are you gonna
Like
do that
3 or
if you
4
got
times
iron
the
hands?
number of pages of FAQs for
turn
the
the
basic
page.
rule book than there are actual rules in the
In
basic
the-
rule
yeah,
book.
right.
There's-
At least for the basic rules, right? No, it's so ridiculous. I feel for any new player trying to get into 40K.
You know what?
though?
Though you
easy.
can,
Yeah,
no,
you got a lot
but
of reading
you
to
can
do.
play with just the core rules, even if they're not.
That's true.
If
That's
you
true.
ruin
Well,
that
no,
book
it's
with
just-
Iron Hands,
No, it's just as much reading as in the last edition. Did you ever think that maybe the Iron Hands have opposable fingers?
yeah, they also have iron fingers, Tony.
Where would the joke be if they did?
They're just iron palms. Hey, speaking of jokes, Star Wars Legion releases this Friday. Clone Wars set.
Does
Does
it
it?
really?
Yeah. Well, hang on.
I was gonna
Are
say.
you gonna get your stuff?
Do you have
I'm gonna
have
be
the
honest.
product yet?
No.
Then I'm not.
That's
I'm
what I
not-
was just gonna say. Until I'm
Say
holding it
anything.
and say, "Wow, it's real."
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
I
count
don't
my
want to. I don't
chickens.
want to be like any part of any public forum that says we're gonna have it and then it not show up. I don't want to get lynched.
I'm not gonna lie. You know what? I've thought about selling it on Thursday, and I was like, you know what? Fantasy Flight would be like, you can't sell our product anymore, even though even though they've been selling it online for weeks. Oh my god!
But I say that because like there were some people who were really upset at
Mm-hmm.
Michigan GT. Like I talked to a handful of guys about it,
About what?
about Clone Wars not.
Oh,
being
yeah, there's a
released
lot
yet.
of people who are really
Yeah,
mad.
they were
Yeah.
really upset about it.
See, everybody I talked to was like, "Nah, we'll get it when we get it." And I was like, "I don't know how you feel that way. I've
I've seen
been waiting for it patiently."
I've seen
Not
a lot
patiently.
of people on Facebook who are irate about it.
I'll tell you
Like,
what. You
just-
go anywhere on
it's been
Facebook, you're
handled
gonna
very
find somebody
poorly.
who's irate, though.
Fair, never mind.
Okay, so anyway, we're diverging off
Like,
topic.
man, the weather's really nice. Well, weather is totally subjective.
It's true.
And there he is.
That's not outrage.
Did you know about
That is.
the Zangor problem with like the index option?
Yeah, vaguely.
Yeah, so basically,
Yeah. There's
Zangors had a piece of war gear in the index
Yep, there's-
that they could buy that gave them +1 to advance and charge. And when they came out in the Codex, they renamed that piece of war gear, but it still gave +1 to advance and charge. So, rules as written, you can purchase upgrades and war gear from the index and from the current data slate. So they were buying both because they were named 2 different things.
Yep.
They just FAQ'd it in the
hear
big
this.
FAQ that you couldn't
Just
do it
now.
anymore. Just now.
Yeah. No, I
Well,
did.
because people hadn't caught on to it for
No,
a long time, and then some guy came out of nowhere and like was doing it at these tournaments, and then everyone was like, "All right, well, until they beat it with the bat,
and
we're
you know
gonna do
what?
it."
Like for the players, for tournament players who are like, when you're in position to win an event, like you're on a different level. You know what I mean? Like Michigan GT had 118 players in 40K. If you're in position to win that, like you're just and you're just playing a different game. You know, I often wonder if these guys literally see the game like, you know, the meme where the chick sees the math. Like they look at the game that way. You know, I'm like, man, I really want to kill that big scary thing. I didn't do enough to kill it. Your turn.
Well, I listened to this. I was listening to the Art of War podcast.
The
earlier.
Brandon Grant episode was really good. by the way.
Did you
Yeah.
listen to it? Yeah, I listened to it too, and just like listening to the way that he talks about strategy, it's just so interesting because he's like, you know, if your entire strategy is just deploy up on the line because hey, I have first turn, and you're gonna get first turn all 6 games in a row. And so you just deploy everything up front, and well, you know, I wouldn't be doing this if my opponent had first turn because you just murder me. 1 out of 6 games, you're going to get seized on, and you're going to lose because
Listen,
you
bro,
didn't have a backup
Don't
plan.
be using your math on me. But what was frustrating about that episode was like everything he was talking about like was so simple.
Yeah.
But I'm like, wow, I am really a caveman. I'm just like, I literally have a stick and I just want to hit things with it.
Well, they
And
literally
they're not
call
even
him.
painted.
They They literally
Especially
make
the
jokes
tanks.
You
to
can't
call
be here
Brandon
anymore.
Grant the robot.
Yeah.
Dude, I was going to
like,
say
they
because he's like a
because
robot.
like, and I think it was Scary even said that like they did intros and Brandon Grant was like, "Hey guys," and Scary was like translated as 0110001. Like just because he's so analytic and so quick about every situation that's put in front of him, and he's usually right about it.
They made a joke one time. There's another guy that I guess is pretty analytical like that, and he's like, "Okay, what if they played each other? Would they just stand there and talk it over for an hour and a half, and then like just decide the other person? Well, good
And then
game.
just
Shake
shake hands
walk
and
away.
no dice roll.
They're just saying chess moves without actually doing anything. Yeah.
Outstanding.
All right, you
move.
beat me in 37 moves. Let's go.
My God.
They were talking about like the bunch of them were going to go out to dinner one time, and they were like, "Yeah, and we're going to get Brandon some AA batteries."
Nuts and bolts.
That's so funny. All right, so let's transition this into the guys in black power armor.
You want to talk
The
about
Raven Guard.
Yeah.
Yep, good army.
They guard
I
ravens.
like them. They
I was trying to avoid
which
Iron
is crazy
Hands.
because they're not that difficult. You know, it's not that hard to protect
I think
them
it was
before.
talking about Horus Heresy era Dark Angels.
Oh,
Were they
yeah,
all
gotcha,
black?
gotcha.
Yeah, they were all
Mhm.
black. Why-
They're,
okay,
they're black, red, and
Why did they change
White,
all
I
their
think.
armor?
10,000 years, man. They want to wear
because-
something different.
But the Blood Angels didn't change, right?
Because Fallen.
I think they did.
Sure,
yeah,
that's
Blood
fair.
Angels weren't.
But I'm
Blood
talking like
Angels
Alpha Legion changed.
blue?
No, they weren't.
No,
blue.
no,
They've
were
always
they
been
were-
red. Yeah, they've always been
No,
red.
Why are you
who-
looking at me like
who
that,
was,
Jake?
Who was blue? And
Jake walks over like we're talking. He's like
The-
seductively putting on rubber gloves.
The world eaters
Prostate
were white and
exam. I just
blue.
wanna say-
Maybe
that's what it was.
I just
Yeah,
want
World
to say,
Eaters
isn't
were white and
the
blue.
army whatever color you paint it? So like,
Death Guard was also white at
Citadel
one point, too.
Gray.
Death Guard
I'm
was also
starting
white at one point,
airbrushing
too.
tomorrow, so I'm gonna. All y'all are gonna be blown out
You know,
of the water.
I made this fantastic joke. I was like, "Look, we gotta get moving some airbrushes in the community. So, like, Tim, here's what we do: we get you out there and we have you airbrush some tanks and you paint them and you make them look really nice. And I'll be like, because if someone like you who has never painted a vehicle before can get out into the community and show them this fantastic work, we'll sell some of these things.
I like it. Great business strategy.
Other than my Eldar stuff, all my guard stuff is painted. All
Yeah,
of
but
it-
you didn't paint it.
What?
You bought it that way.
Yeah.
you know what's really great?
Gray.
What's really great?
The fact
Everyone thinks Tim doesn't paint his tanks, so if you do get a color, that strategy might work.
Was this Jake that started this whole thing?
I honestly don't know, and at this point, I just believe it.
I've been saying
listen,
so
nobody
consistently
thinks
for
you
2
actually
years.
paint your stuff.
I'm hurt.
I'm the one who
Because when
actually
you
doesn't
do,
paint anything.
You chose to paint it the same color it is right off the runner.
Or I decide to paint my elves, and then they get rid of all the models that I can't even use anymore.
Didn't you kit bash some of those too?
No, my new stuff I am.
No.
How many Rough Riders did you buy?
I've never bought a Rough Rider, but I converted a bunch.
They're gonna get
40K
put down like
legends.
sick puppies. No,
That's all right.
December.
I can convert them back into Sigmar models now and make them the pistoliers they were born to be.
The last Pistoliers.
I
Yeah,
like
I have
it.
to do something because like their torso is all Cadian.
They
and
actually
their
got a
legs
lot
are,
better in the new book.
They're pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, we got to talk about Iron Hands.
Yeah, let's talk about
Iron Hands.
So
They are
the Iron Hands
so
lately
good.
have been doing some iron fisting of the meta.
This is a family show.
Wow. right for the fist.
This is a
What
fa-
I'm saying is
You know,
they balled
you-
their
I-
iron
I
hand
gotta
up
say,
and have punched people.
It's really bad when Brad has to be the one to point out. It's really bad.
This guy.
So listen, if I ever happen to run for a political office, Tony's gonna have to be on staff. Otherwise, well, he'll
Gonna
be
be-
the
we're
leaker.
gonna have to purge every episode.
He's gonna be selling sound bites to his political
What was
opponents.
it? Was that Bannon in the White House who was the leaker? Is that who it was?
Oh, I don't remember.
well,
think
he's
it
gonna
was-
he's gonna be the leaker on my staff.
I think
The
it was one of
leak?
them.
The leak?
Yeah, the leaker.
The leak? What do you mean?
Where's diapers, man?
He's just the leak.
He's just the leak.
They call them leakers,
They
bro.
call them
call
leaks.
Hardly knew her.
Okay.
Oh, family friendly.
Anyway,
Okay,
Tony's gonna have to be. I'm gonna have to take care of Tony, or he's gonna ruin my career.
Joel soundbite.
Okay. At any rate, Iron Hands. I don't know what it was. I heard the stats the other day. They literally won
I think I
like
think they
9
said
out of
like,
11 events this weekend.
yeah. I
They
wanted
were like,
I wanted to say like they were. I think the stat that I heard was they were in 80% of the top fours of the events they participated in.
yeah.
That's insane.
Oh, it was
No,
And that blows Stats Center out of the water.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
projecting 25 conservatively, 40% tops, and they doubled that.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
no, it
because
was-
these guys don't.
they're insanely powerful.
Yeah.
Insanely
No.
powerful.
I was
A lot of the lists, though, I feel weren't solo Iron Hands, though. It was Iron Hands and Raven Guard. Those two together are insane.
Don't you lose out on your specialty doctrine ability?
You do, but the
Okay.
doctrine itself is the most powerful thing. If you're if you're running Iron Hands and you're doing things that either inherently ignore moving and shooting with heavy, you include captains.
Yeah.
You know those things don't really matter too much. Or if you're just you have Fearos and he just gives out enough.
Yeah.
Iron Hands has inherently a lot of ways to just get hitting on twos. You just like it's
Well, I mean,
nonsense.
Not to
The-
mention
well,
like
the list-
psychic powers and stuff.
Well,
yeah,
the list I'm
that's-
playing right now, every vehicle in my army hits on a 2, rerolling ones.
Yep.
Every vehicle.
That's solo Iron Hands.
Okay, now I don't want to be hypocritical, because everybody that's ever watched any bit of the show or knows me personally knows that like I bitched a lot about the way they handled the guard situation. This is very different.
It's extraordinarily powerful.
Yeah, guard literally never won 80% of anything, right? Ever. Specifically conscripts, by the way. Like they never. They
I don't want to say they never won anything.
No, they
but
won
were,
things. Sure, they won things.
Just not 80%.
Oh,
no,
yeah,
not
no,
80%.
you're
Their
right.
win percentage was always around 50%,
much-
which is
Look,
where you want it to
they
be.
have to do something to correct Iron Hands.
But
But what do you? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
how high is their play percentage? I'm just curious how much that actually grown. Because it's not like I 'cause
Guard
I'm-
or
no Iron Hands.
Oh,
No, I'm
wow.
not saying now.
I
Listen,
don't know about
they-
Iron Hands.
They are broken.
I don't know
All
about
right?
Iron Hands
They're
specifically,
broken,
but I know that
I'm
that
just curious
Space
about how much their play
Marines,
percentage went up.
like Adeptus Astartes has grown to roughly 30% of the meta itself, and it's
Okay.
like
from what?
it was much smaller than that.
And
Probably
that was
people-
just
People didn't like play Space Marines.
Probably like 5.
that was
maybe?
just at Michigan GT.
Yeah. So you
Michigan
do
GT had 80 or
Was 30% Space Marine players.
when you take this
but
stuff
the,
into
but
account.
the top 8 was
A lot of Iron Hands.
all Space Marines, right?
Wait,
there was one
at
admin.
Michigan GT, I don't know.
No, the top 8 wasn't all Iron Hands. There
No,
was
no, but they were all Space Marines of some kind, right?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
Oh,
I would
Orcs
have.
made it. Orcs made
Orcs
it.
made it, AdMech made it.
Okay, that leaves us 6 spots.
There was
And I know there were at least
Raven
3
Guard.
Space
There was a
Marines in
Raven
those.
Guard Iron Hands. There was an Iron Hands.
there's probably an Iron Hands with Raven Guard.
That's I think it's
Okay, now the thing is with
He's making a joke, Brad.
the thing is, whereas when conscripts were quote unquote an issue, those things should be adjusted with points. A lot of the problem with Space Marines is the doctrines, and there's no points cost to them, and you can't assign a points cost to them.
well,
How do you?
You can just make Space Marines more
they
expensive in general.
Right, but I don't think that'll fix the issue because then you're literally just going to see them instead of bringing battalions to get command points, they'll say screw it, and they'll go the Eldar route and only bring the powerful stuff.
It's it's the adding rules thing that I was complaining about earlier. Like they
Right,
just
but
keep
what do we do
adding
now
rules.
that we're here, though? Like,
Now that we're here, I don't
We're
know
gonna
there's a
have
lot
to-
that we can do.
We're gonna have to ride it out until they try to balance it out by adding more rules to other stuff.
I think doctrines probably should be once per game.
They used to be.
I don't know why they're not.
They
Honestly,
used to be.
it feels like when they wrote the Marine Codex this time around, they're like, you know what? Let's give them their day. Like Reese on his podcast, even at one point was like, you know what? They're where they belong now. And I'm like, that's a little.
He's,
I mean,
he's
they're
changed his
kicking
tune now because now
teeth
he's
in.
saying that Iron Hands are the tip of the iceberg. Imperial Fists are supposed to be able to dirt nap Iron Hands,
Tony, is there a
and
problem with our Twitch
Salamanders
feed?
are going to have the highest damage output of any chapter.
Imperial
no
Fist.
one's
I'll
reading it.
believe.
Salamanders.
I'll believe
there's
it when I
nobody
see
reading
it. I seem to remember looking at like their doctrine ability and all that stuff, at least what they leak, and I wasn't all that impressed. with
Wait,
it.
But that's just a
about
leak.
who?
What strats do they have?
Well, no,
What-
it was actually it was something Games Workshop leaked that was actual like pictures of
Right,
what's
but
in
until
the
you get
codex,
the
but-
book in its entirety
Right.
and then
You're
actually
right.
play, you know what I mean?
You're
Like,
absolutely right. I just know as I wasn't
I've
as
noticed a
blown
lot of
away
that.
as what
I've
I've
noticed
seen.
a lot of that. Like when you look at rules in a vacuum, like that's like they did that with the Cities of Sigmar book, and then like when you take a deep dive into it, you're like, okay, there's some really there's some crazy stuff.
Yeah,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean? And
I'm just saying I wasn't blown away by that preview like
So-
I was the Iron Hands preview.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to wait. I'm gonna have to wait
Let's
to
hear
see.
it.
more
Jason,
stuff,
Jason was
but-
looking up the numbers, and he said over 60% of the lists were pure Iron Hands,
Yeah.
and they had a 78% win rate over the weekend.
Yeah, that's insane.
see, and when you're talking about you want everybody to be right, between 40 and 60%. You know what I mean? Like that's kind with so many variables. Like that's a good window,
I
right?
think it's even a little tighter than that. You want between
Well,
like
you want
48
it,
and 52.
You want it, sure,
Yeah.
sure. You want it, but I'm saying that's in a perfect world, right?
Right,
like,
right.
Like if you got somebody that's coming in at 43% and then somebody that's coming in at 58%, like you need to bring them
I mean,
together.
even
many-
Yanari at the height of their
Was-
dominance
were
was
58, right?
something like 58, 59%.
How many of those games were against other Iron Hand players though?
That
they can't- they don't
muddles.
track that, I
They,
don't
they,
think.
they do actually.
Okay.
Well, at least 40K stats.
right, but
Center
they don't
does.
release those. We,
Yeah.
we never see those kind of.
because that is important because when you get two Iron Hand players playing against each
You're
other,
gonna get an Iron
you're
Hands
gonna
winner.
you're gonna get an Iron Hands
Well,
sure,
they-
regardless.
they-
and if
They've talked about this before. They root out a lot of those.
oh okay, well perfect.
A lot of those results.
Right, because that would skew your statistic.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Exactly.
Those are called outliers.
Because honestly,
Hey,
playing
don't use that math lingo, bro. It upsets me.
I'm sorry for talking.
playing
How
them
do I use
as much
my
as I do, I honestly, before when I played Iron Hands, I'd be like, all right, you take this, this, and this. This is what I'm worried about. Now, I
You're
can't
not
say
worried
with
about
confidence to say what to take to counter it.
And you know what? That's
The Iron Hand. I mean, now if the next two books come out and they're more broken, God, I really don't want to say they're broken, but 78% win rate, like that is super good.
like, I can't
And
imagine anything coming out that's better than what they are.
Well,
at.
Iron Hands are so efficient; they can do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the Space Marine book in general is a very efficient book.
Yeah, it's very good.
Like you're like,
And
okay, well, I
Invictors
rolled
are
10 dice
super
and I
popular.
get 10 hits and wounds. Like, what's
The
that?
new
Invictors
Dread.
are great.
Invictor Warsuits.
Dude, what, me and Joel were talking
I
earlier about
wish
the
it had the
Impulsor.
dreadnought keyword. It does not.
Wait till the Impulsor comes out.
What?
The Impulsor comes out in 2 weeks. You're going to see 6 of those in some lists.
I don't
know if you'll see
maybe.
any.
I'm telling you. I am telling you. That thing
Why?
is fantastic.
I mean, it's pretty good.
It's got utility. It's got a 4-up invuln. I'm telling you, you're going to see some 6 in a list.
I mean, I did see.
Mark it today.
I did see someone running 10 in cursors recently.
And cursors.
Yeah.
What are those?
10
They're
units.
no, like a squad of 10 in cursors.
Okay.
Are
They're the
they-
new
they're-
infiltrators for
they're-
they're like 92 points.
Oh, okay.
They've got the D3 mortal wound.
That's
mine.
right. They got the mine. Yeah. Okay. Though
If
that
you
kit's
come
not
within
out
3
yet.
inches of it.
No, it's not out yet. But they
if you
all
come
they
within
did
3
was
inches,
just
it's
kit
D3
bash
model
alternate
wounds.
heads on,
Oh,
a,
okay,
on
I
an
see.
infiltrator kit.
I see.
Or I'm sorry, an infiltrator body from the
From the
Shadow War.
Spear.
Okay, I guess my
Shadow
ultimate
Spear.
point is like when they're writing Iron Hands, Ultramarines. We were talking about this on the way back from the GT. You said they get three rules for being Ultramarines.
Yeah, you get to act like you never moved. You get +1 leadership. Shoot when you fall back.
And then you get doctrines on top
Which
of
is
that.
pretty
So
good.
that's 4, right?
Yeah.
Sure, I wasn't.
All Space Marines get 4.
Yes.
Um,
So I wasn't counting the doctrine.
No, I'm
but-
just saying. I'm
but yeah,
we're totaling up. Right there's 4 rules that you pay no points for. Right.
Okay.
You
Essentially.
pay. How much do doctrines cost?
Well, it's not a points cost thing. It's sort of like an opportunity cost thing, right?
Yeah, I get it. But,
you can't put a
objectively, there's no
points cost on
Yeah, there's no
doctrines.
points cost. No, I know.
You're not taking a knight, but you
Yeah.
don't need a knight when you've got neg 4 everything.
Yeah, probably not.
Now,
You can have Imperial Fists with twin assault cannons that are basically Avenger Gatling cannons
Yeah, I know.
against vehicles.
Yeah.
Stupid good.
why?
Why? Because they get +1.
Unclear?
Unclear.
So now moving to Iron Hands, they have 5 rules, right?
Well, 6 if you're counting doctrine.
Sure.
They
All have no points
Oh,
attached to them.
yeah.
So how do you fix that? You know what I mean? Like traditionally, they've said we're going to go and fix. We're
Why
going
can't
to
they
use
just
points.
put points on them?
Well, the way they interact now, I mean, like I guess for anybody that doesn't know how they work, you get doctrines if you're 100% Space Marines. So what that's a blanket army-wide rule that you choose one of 3, right? You start in one, you can go to the next and go to the next, right? So there's just really no way to put points to it because it's not something you're bringing; it's just something you get.
It was also a way
Yeah, but
to.
you're talking that's the 6th point. That's the 6th one. You said they got 5.
Right now, the 5 other ones are if your detachment is only Iron Hands, right?
Well,
army?
no, but there's also like the Iron Hands chapter tactic, which accounts for 3 of those.
Okay, well, explain to Tony the chapter tactic. 'Cause,
Okay, so,
I
like-
won't be able to do it.
So
correctly.
basically, if you have a detachment that's all Iron Hands, they get their chapter tactic. So that gives them ignoring wounds on a 6. Vehicles double their number of wounds for when accounting for what bracket they're in, and
5 up Overwatch.
5 Overwatch on a 5 up.
So why can't you say pick one of 3?
You could, but that's different than just change. Okay, so like we're talking about conscripts earlier in the edition. They were too good, so they had to raise their points cost, right? And then they also changed the way rules interacted with them. Okay, so they did a bunch of different things. I don't know if they can do that with Iron Hands because you can't change the points on the things that are breaking them, right? And also there's an unintended consequence if you say, okay, intercessors are more points because of Iron Hands, then Ultramarines are just sitting here or White
Well,
Scars.
here's the-
it does they're not the offenders, but they're going to be the ones that pay the price if you adjust the points.
Here's the question: what in the Iron Hands Codex is ridiculous? Not necessarily rules wise, but unit wise. With the rules added in,
I would
what
say
is-
Pharos is the only issue.
I disagree
don't
with that
think that's
entirely.
true, but
A
it's-
lot of these big time lists are taking successor chapters that don't even include.
No,
Pharaohs.
he has models.
Yeah,
His
what
question was
units? Yeah, what units are?
Well, I mean, Pharaohs is the only one in the unit, but the
Right, so
the
he's
model,
the only thing you can adjust points for.
right?
Oh,
But
okay.
which I
So-
would agree that he does need to come up in points. But for games I've played, the only thing that's came into play with him is his signum
Yeah,
to hit on 2s.
that's right. What about? But so we have a lot of units because not all the units benefit equally from these changes, these
Right.
rules changes.
Absolutely.
So like an intercessor squad's not going to benefit from all these rules in the same way that Storm Talon will, for instance.
well, no, that's not 100% because you take a squad of 10 intercessors with Stalker bolt rifles that all ignore moving and firing heavy. It's pretty awesome.
Right.
yeah,
but-
but it's 5 shots versus
I mean,
12.
10 because I
Oh, you said
squad,
10 man.
squad of 10.
Okay, but
and
it's-
that's
it's
and
10
that's
shots
super good when you
versus-
move out from cover and then drop 3 command points and just say, hey, that character's ours.
I see what you're saying.
But you might have to go back and adjust points on some of the stuff that is out of hand.
And I
don't think that's the right
out
way
of
to
hand.
do it.
I think that's
no.
okay.
I'm just saying
But-
as an example. But like, what if they in chapter approved? They made an Iron Hands section. So hey, if your army is Iron Hands and you have a Storm Talon, it costs 10 more points than other chapters Storm Talons because it's super good.
That's what I
That's-
was going to say. The
especially,
only way
especially compared to like White Scars.
the
and
only
stuff,
way
yeah.
to fix it from chapter to chapter and not have one unit more powerful in an army than another is to, in all of these supplements, have associated point costs for that chapter.
And I have no
That
problems
might-
with
that
that
Is
at
might
all.
that
be
one
the
of the
way to go.
ideas that these guys that like deeply analyze this stuff have put forward?
I
don't know.
have not listened. I know that the chapter tactics episode this week
Is about how to
is a
fix
lot
it.
about how to fix Iron Hands. I have not listened to it.
I think there's too many rules for free. I think like Tony said, like you should have to pick. You know, and I don't know if like why do they Overwatch on a 5?
Don't know. Unclear.
Yeah. I have no
It's supposed to be fluff wise that they're calculated. They're machines. They're more man than machine and can
Right.
process threats faster
Right.
than their
You
counterparts.
can't always put fluff on the table, though. You know what I mean? Because
You're not wrong.
there's no reason basilisks are on the battlefield
Honestly,
when
then
they can shoot hundreds of miles away.
Especially since the guys can't even hold guns. You know.
I mean, you can balance it on there. You know, just make modifications. You could get the whole palm in there and pull the trigger with it.
Yeah.
I can't.
Hey, don't talk. We never talked about like pumping the shotgun. Okay, but like honestly, good answer is I don't know, because that rule really came out of nowhere. Like
That's the most-
The Overwatch one?
Yeah, because all the other chapters like they were expanded to include 2 things. You know, like so.
Yeah, they
Two
all
seems like a good number to me.
Imperial Fists, like they get to ignore cover, and they have exploding
You know what the
sixes
best
with
part
bolt
of 2
guns.
is?
Yeah,
Or
that-
bolt weapons.
yeah.
Not lonely.
Right.
and
So
that's-
like I don't know why Iron Hands out of nowhere got like this third rule,
maybe
especially
it's-
when they already benefited greatly from now their vehicles get the 6
Yeah.
up,
Maybe
and
it's-
they double the wounds.
And
Maybe
now
it's
you can
because
bump
it's-
that 5 up to a 4 up with a strat.
Yeah.
A
What
1
if they
CP
balance
strat.
it and say
Yeah.
You're
vehicles don't
overwatching
get
a
it?
unit on a 4.
Do what?
And see, that was part of the problem before because no one was taking vehicles, and so because they didn't get them.
Yeah.
And-
And that was the right. That was
Well,
the right
then they
choice.
won't sell
but-
models. So
Right,
they
but
won't.
isn't a Iron Hand Repulsor Executioner like super efficient?
It is super efficient and is very very hard to
Hits
kill.
on 2s, right?
Oh, you
can-
can.
you
And its
can
weapons
make
are
it.
heavy,
You can get it there.
so it's re-rolling 1. So it's
No, but it has power of the machine spirit naturally, so it's gonna ignore that. But yeah, it'll inherently reroll 1s to hit.
You can make 2 hit on 2s
You
With-
just have Pharaohs
with
you
a
know,
chaplain and Pharaohs.
You just have Pharaohs be the car salesman that just taps on the roof and
Yeah,
says this bad boy can kill so many heretics, and then you just
And then
cast
it
Psych
does.
power on the other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No. It's.
that's one thing I've always disliked about 8th edition. Once the
There's-
codexes started coming out, because like you look at it, and I'm going to use my example, a basilisk. Why would I ever bring a non-Catachan basilisk?
I mean, I will.
You can make an argument for Cadian.
I don't know if you can. I know people will, but
Okay.
I don't know if it's valid.
I could make an argument for Cadian, but that's only in specific builds. If you're just like be like, hey, I'm going to bring some basilisks, then
Well, when you
Catachan
talk
just
about the
on
Relic
paper
of
is
Lost
just better.
Cadian stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's certain things like that. Plus, then
I
there's like
guess I'm talking in a vacuum,
there's
right? Like a unit is
combining,
better.
There's combining aerial spotter with overlapping fields of
Yeah,
fire,
yeah.
and so things like that. Sure, but it's a lot of eggs to put into one basket, and
Yeah,
But
well,
then you're
not,
still only getting up to 6 shots.
well,
You know
not
what I
all
mean?
those tactics.
into a snake's basket.
Not
Just
all
snake.
those tactics are created equal. Either.
Basilisk?
Like you look through,
Snake.
you look through the like the Tau stuff, for instance. Look through the Tau like chapter tactic equivalents. Like the majority of them are like, I don't really care about most of. There's like 2 you really care about, and then that's it. The other ones are just kind of crap. So it's a lot like that.
I like the idea, but I don't think it's been carried out.
Chapter tactic.
Yeah, I don't think it's been carried out very
Yeah,
well.
it was a lot better when it was just Space Marines, and that's because that's why it only applies to their troops. Because back last edition, there were chapter tactics, but they literally only applied to your. I think it was just infantry.
yeah,
So-
but it
They weren't
that
broken
totally
either, were
No.
they?
that totally lost
Vehicles could
everything.
heal
Do you have
themselves.
different?
Oh, you know what? It was dependent on what your chapter tactic actually was. So Imperial Fists, it wasn't even everything. It was literally just Devastators and Centurion devs had tank hunters. That was your chapter tactic.
Yeah.
That was it. So
Yeah,
it was
I just-
a lot more contained. Too.
I have
And the
I have
Iron Hand
absolutely no
vehicles healed
problem.
themselves.
Yeah.
So
At the end of the turn, you could roll a D6 on a 6. It would regain a lost wound. I
he's
believe.
new. He
that
doesn't
was
get
Iron
it.
Hands, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had
Yep.
it will not die. That's
Yep.
right. That's
Can you
right.
unplug his mic? So, are there other armies that have different chapters?
They
Oh,
all have
all of them
something.
do.
Yeah.
They're either called.
Something or like
Well, it's all the same concept, right? It's,
Yeah.
it's different sub factions within a faction.
They all
Space
have their
Marines
own
called,
trick.
Are called chapter tactics. Mine are called regiments. Eldar has craft worlds. They're all the same thing.
Yeah,
who are the fish people?
They're
They've got seps.
They're
Did you say
seps.
gods?
worlds.
What? All right, guys, that's our show for the week. We
it
fixed
is time
Iron
to go.
Hands, and they're better than they've ever been. So,
Did we?
They just can't shoot guns.
all right, and on that note, we'll see you
Okay.
later. We love you. Goodbye.
That was a pretty.